Welcome to our YouTube video series on employment law. My name is Christopher Neufeld of Neufeld Legal. And in this particular video, we're going to provide you with 10 tips before you quit your job. Now, this is not intended to be all-encompassing and address every particular situation. Because as you'll realize as we go through the tips, every situation is unique. And there are special considerations that you have to realize and you have to focus upon either yourself or with competent professionals to make the most out of your situation, because your job is probably one of the most critical things in your financial well-being, both now and going forward. So you have to approach it with care and consideration that it demands, and not simply look to a single video or series of videos or internet information, but you have to approach it effectively and specific to yourself. Now let's get on and tackle these 10 tips before you quit your job. Number one, don't rush it. So unless you are threatened with immediate harm, you should take a well thought out approach to how you quit your job. Pushing it back a day or two is never going to hurt unless it's going to be harmful to you physically, emotionally, psychologically. And that's an entirely different consideration. But even then, it's worthwhile to take the time to talk to knowledgeable professionals. But let's get on to number two. Number two is to consider your options. The fact that you are going to leave your job might be certain. The question is, how are you going to leave your job? This is a very telling question. You really need to understand how you should approach it, what you should be doing, and whether you should be approaching it in the way you initially thought of. Should you simply be quitting your job, or should you be more effectively looking to push the situation so that you are in a proper position to be terminated? If there's an arrangement that can become to some terms with your current employer, that they let you go and you receive a package and you protect your interests, those are things you have to consider. Number three, speak to the right professionals. Now, without touting my own horn, you really should be speaking to a knowledgeable lawyer about your situation. You want to talk to somebody who understands, after hearing the specifics of your situation, what your options are. And you want to be talking to somebody who is capable of practicing in the jurisdiction in which you're operating. Now, what's important about this is if you're in one city and you don't want to go across the country or to another country to get legal advice with respect to your employment and quitting your position. That does not make sense, because that person cannot provide you with the appropriate information. You really need to get somebody specific to your jurisdiction. So that means somebody from your state or province that you can get to provide you with the insights specific to what your situation is, so you make the right choices and do the right things in advance of taking this critical step. Number four, collect all your personal and employment information. Now, what you're wanting to do is look for everything, whether it's on emails, in documents, that is yours personally. And this includes stuff related to your employment as opposed to your work. So your employment arrangement, your payroll statements, your employment contracts, that information where it's provided to you, policies related to your employment, individual reports, personal reviews, accommodations, all that kind of stuff is important to you going forward. And especially if you intend to challenge some part of your employment, or you intend to protect your position relative to your employment, or going forward and interviewing for new jobs. You want to collect this information, hopefully before you quit, because what's going to happen is the proverbial wall is going to fall and you're going to be shut down from getting access to your emails, your documents, your document folders, even using your phone if it's a company phone. So what you want to do is you want to collect this material that is legitimately yours, and stepping back, talk to the professionals that you engage with. They will give you insights as to what is properly yours and what is company property, what is their intellectual property, their work product property, and the like. Number 5, identify those materials that you need from your boss and request them on your departure if you cannot get them earlier. So there's certain documentation that either by law your boss is required to provide you with, or you might have overlooked and you need it for particulars of either completing your determinations with respect to leaving the current job or moving forward to your next job, that you might well need those materials. So you're going to want to request them. And with every request, when you do something verbally, you want to afterwards follow up with an email so that you have backup. And this is always important. With an email, something written that you can record and request that material. It's important that you get all your material and you made the request in there. You need to protect yourself. You're number 1. Number 6, develop your plan for after you leave. Make a plan and get things lined up. You'll quickly realize how time-consuming it is, so you will benefit from starting in advance of departing. So once you start looking at this plan, you'll see that just simply quitting the next day might not make all the most sense in the world. You might want to take the week, prep up, collect materials, start to gain your information, speak to the professionals, start making sure you have your resume on your personal computer and you don't simply have it, the updated resume or the recommendation letters or important information related to your personal employment sitting on your office computer or your office phone. Something you don't want to do. You want to shift everything over, but you want to, more importantly, start developing your plan, because once you quit, you're going to be on full speed implementing that plan to find your next job. Number 7, understand your obligations on departure. You want to limit surprises and make sure things run as smoothly as possible. You don't want to come into conflicts. You don't want to fail to take steps that you need to, whether it's getting employment insurance, whether it's signing off and committing to returning documents, returning computers, returning cell phones, you name it. You want to understand what your obligations are. And this goes back to speaking with the professionals and making sure that you fulfill your obligations and you're completely on side. The last thing you want to do is create a basis for your former boss to challenge your actions because you didn't fulfill your obligations when you initiated your departure. Be on side, especially if you intend to possibly challenge your former employer at a later date. Number 8, implement your plan, hopefully with the aid of knowledgeable legal counsel. Now, when I'm talking about this plan, the plan is when you departure plan. So you want to prepare your delivery and undertake it politely and with respect. You want to have a resolute approach to how you're dealing with quitting your job or negotiating your exit. Now, this is important. If you negotiate your exit, you're trying to get something more out of your position. And this is something that you really should talk to professionals about, because there's a lot that oftentimes you can pursue other things, but if you don't pursue it in the right manner, you're possibly effectively shooting yourself in the foot. But if you can, you want to proceed in the most appropriate way possible. You don't want to give them any ammunition with which they can counter you or challenge you. You know that they're not going to be happy with it, but you have to approach it correctly and effectively. Number 9, you should be doing your preliminary work to seek a new job. Now, this means updating your resume and LinkedIn profile, getting your references together, start doing interview prep, assessing the job market, and start looking for your next job. You won't necessarily want to post or make known publicly that you are looking for that next job immediately. You want to get everything ready. So what's in the public domain is consistent, maybe it's cleaned up. However, with respect to what you have forthcoming after you depart, that should be all in line and ready to go immediately after you depart. And you want to timeline it properly. Finally, in number 10, you can consider forcing your termination or effectuating a mutually agreeable resolution as to your departure. Your employer would prefer that you quit, given the financial ramifications to your boss of being forced out means payments by the employer where they're not getting any further work or value from yourself. So they benefit from your quitting. However, not all circumstances require that you quit. There are alternative approaches to dealing with it once you know you're about to leave. And the reason you need to look at these alternate approaches and you need to consult with legal professionals with all your materials is that you could be leaving effectively tens of thousands of dollars, even $100,000 of earned money on the table. This is money that you have previously earned and the circumstances are simply sitting there, but nobody has taken the time or opportunity to properly reflect upon and deal with that money that is rightfully yours. Now, it seems like a far stretch, and it's not something that's going to be associated with somebody who's only been working a job for 6 months, 2 years, even 4 years. At 4 years, there might be $10,000 you might be leaving on the table. There might be $20,000 you could be leaving on the table in certain circumstances. And this is the important thing again. Every circumstance is very much its own unique character. So you have to understand that. But where people have been working at a job for an extensive period of time, 10 plus years, there is the possibility, and I'm not making this up, that there is considerable earned money that's available to the person looking to depart, that if they don't look at it, they could be leaving it on the table. And this goes beyond forcing a termination where the individual can get a termination severance pay package. We're talking about earned money preceding that. And it then gets tied into the whole termination severance pay package and increases even further. So you got some very serious considerations here. And simply saying, I'm going to quit, I'm not going to look into this situation, and I'm not going to think it through, is not to your advantage. Really, when you look at it, how much is it going to take you with respect to time and cost to make sure you are covered, considering how much time you have spent on this particular job? And now you're simply going to rush through it, leave earned money on the table, leave a lot of materials on the table, and do things in a happenstance manner that doesn't advance your interests. You need to be advancing your interests, and you need to consider these 10 tips and build off of the tips. Because, as I said before, every situation is individual, and you need to understand that there's more to it than simply 10 tips. But if you work off of them, you build off them, you work with the right professionals, you can make the most out of departing your current job. Thank you.